Hello, and welcome to Flourishing and Artificial Intelligence, Part 1. This was a really fun essay to write. I hope it comes across that I enjoyed writing it and I enjoyed researching it as well. I have followed AI like many people over the last few years. I even started a company that focused on machine learning back in 2017 before the whole chat GPT thing. And it really, really interests me. It interests me from an ethical, from a kind of philosophical, and also from a technological perspective. And it is so important as the headlines continue to be dominated by AI booms, build outs, bubbles, whatever it may be, that we look at flourishing, human flourishing, in the context of a world that is increasingly populated with artificial intelligence, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's at home, whether it's any other part of our lives. So I do not claim to be an expert in AI. I hope the explanations were relatively understandable and relatively straightforward. I really enjoyed looking at those four paradigm shifts or those four breakthroughs that made the headlines to show how artificial intelligence was progressing and has progressed. But I know that this exploration is far from complete and it is relatively cursory. So obviously, if you want to go deeper, there are so many thousands of books that talk about the technical elements of artificial intelligence or even the moral or ethical implications of artificial intelligence. But what I wanted to do here was talk really about AI in the context of human flourishing, how we can flourish in this AI world. This is the first part. Hopefully, it sets the scene. It defines our terms. It makes the introductory argument for flourishing in the context of artificial intelligence. Next week, we are going to give some more practical principles for how we might be able to flourish, bearing in mind that AI is bearing down upon us in every domain. Look left, look right, and we'll probably see artificial intelligence. So, without further ado, because this is a very long essay, on with the essay. Flourishing and Artificial Intelligence. Part 1. Introduction. Artificial intelligence, that loose affiliation of ingenious algorithms and computational methods, has crossed the Rubicon from science fiction and underfunded academic departments to dinner parties, op-eds, and boardrooms across the world. Unlike earlier technologies that have come before it, which replaced the inefficient work of arms and legs, or the more recent technologies that started to chip away at elements of human intelligence, breathless boosters, with skin very much in the game, have asserted that artificial intelligence represents a paradigm shift in what it means to be human. By bringing humans down to the level of processors, with laughably limited compute, or by raising these clever algorithms to the level of human consciousness and that meaningless target of artificial general intelligence, we are now forced once again to make the strongest possible argument for humans and for human flourishing. Artificial intelligence is the latest chapter in our relentless pursuit of progress. As a river needs a current, technologies and technologists are propelled onwards by progress. Progress is amoral. It doesn't matter where the river is running as long as it's forward. As technologist and author Mustafa Suleyman writes, technology is an eternally dangling carrot, constantly promising more, better, easier, cheaper, with benefits accruing to an ever smaller number of companies which reap the financial rewards of optimization, productivity gains, and efficiency. There seems little we can do to stop it. Hungarian computer scientist and academic John von Neumann goes further, suggesting that even if we wanted to stop scientific progress, it would be unethical from the point of view of the scientists not to do what they know is feasible, no matter what terrible consequences it may have. The economic incentives of relentless progress, together with our unquestioning agreement that the technological solution is always the best, has led us to a public discourse that, without the smallest wrinkle of an ironic smile, claims that the era of the human might be terminated by the very technologies that it has created, a postmodern Prometheus. This essay seeks to explore how humans can flourish in an age of artificial intelligence. The first part of the essay defines artificial intelligence whilst acknowledging the limitations of language. It seeks a clearer understanding of what we mean by better and considers further our society's addiction to progress. In the second part of the essay, I will discuss a number of simple principles that make the strongest possible argument for the unique and enduring role of humans in the workplace, the economy, and in society. This essay is limited in scope. It does not explore the implications of artificial intelligence for governments or economies, nor is there any value to be gained by joining the legion of tenured professors landing lucrative book deals by claiming that they can predict the future. There will be no discussion of frontier technologies that have not and may never reach mass adoption, nor will I be speaking about the technological singularity. My argument is based on the understanding that artificial intelligence and its associated technologies, given the incentives of market capture and shareholder returns, will continue to progress, but will be slowed at different times by a combination of input scarcity, energy, data, scientific boundaries, and the valuable and various frictions of government policy, regulation, and customer adoption. Finally, I will argue that regardless of the pace and direction of progress, we must seek to defend and elevate human flourishing as the ultimate end in all our technological striving. As 20th century American technology critic Lewis Mumford concludes, not sense data or atoms or electrons or packets of energy, but purposes, interests, and meanings constitute the underlying facts of human experience. Defining artificial intelligence. To be intelligent is to understand. Intelligence is not the mindless carrying out of orders, nor is it the following of a sequential process. A hammer is not intelligent just because it achieves its function. It is not intelligent because it has no understanding of its effect, no agency in bringing about its effect, and no explanatory power of its success or failure in achieving its outcome. A hammer is a tool. Throughout most of history, technology has produced ever more efficient tools. First, technology went from static, hammers and plows, to dynamic, steam-powered engines, and then to digital, programmed using either or binary logic. At no point did we engage in a serious-minded discussion about the intelligence of these tools. However, the dawn of the 21st century brought with it three necessary ingredients for a narrow form of hotly debated intelligence: the exponential growth in computing power, abundant human training data, the internet, and more efficient, intelligent algorithms. Abstract theories of machine learning and neural network, once confined to underfunded academics and PhD students with limited job prospects, suddenly became a reality. Since the late 1990s, there have been 4 breakthroughs in artificial intelligence, which propelled academic researchers from their dusty studies and into the world of keynote speeches, competitive job offers, bountiful stock options, and best-selling books. As momentum gained and algorithmic sophistication increased, artificial intelligence started moving from obscure blogs onto the pages of business publications, and ultimately, by the end of 2022, becoming an inevitable topic of conversation in every taxi journey, strategy meeting, and family dinner. The first breakthrough to hit the headlines came in 1997, when IBM's Deep Blue defeated chess champion Garry Kasparov. The artificial intelligence element of Deep Blue was its ability to select the next best move to achieve the defined outcome of beating its opponent. To many onlookers, this looked like intelligence. The computer was reacting to the moves of its opponent, choosing its next move in the context of a wider strategy that would result in a desired outcome. However, Deep Blue's intelligence was explicitly programmed by its human creators. It was simply following orders. The second breakthrough came in 2011 as viewers tuned in to see IBM's Watson defeat all-time champions Ken Jennings and Brad Rutter at the US television quiz show Jeopardy! Viewers were staggered by Watson's ability to answer a wide range of general knowledge questions quicker and more accurately than its human competitors. The technological leap concerned an area of machine learning called natural language processing, where computers break language up into discrete tokens in order to understand the meaning or sentiment of a statement. This meant that Watson could break down each Jeopardy clue into keywords, grammar, and semantic relationships in order to search for the best answer in its massive database of encyclopedias, dictionary, newswires, and textbooks. Viewers, who likely thought Jennings and Rutter were pretty intelligent, could easily have been convinced that they were witnessing true artificial intelligence. What could be more representative of human intelligence than language? However, although natural language processing was indeed a massive technological breakthrough, Watson's algorithms could only compute and not understand language. Watson was simply a computationally heavy, multi-step statistical process. Impressive, but still based ultimately on either-or computing foundations. The third breakthrough came in 2016 with Google DeepMind's AlphaGo defeating Lee Sedol at the ancient Chinese board game Go. Instead of Deep Blue's human-programmed intelligence or Watson's powerful if-then logic, AlphaGo used a technique called reinforcement learning to master the ancient game. Here, programmers provided only the rules, a data set of moves from professional players, and the desired outcome, win, and set AlphaGo to play millions of games against itself, improving by learning which moves worked to achieve its desired outcome. Not only were experts shocked at the sophistication of AlphaGo's play, a textbook student making all the right moves from millions of hours of learning, but also by the intuitiveness of AlphaGo's moves that can never be found in the most advanced textbook or sophisticated player's gameplay. The off-piste creativity of AlphaGo's play suggested that, in all its learning, it might have gained a unique, non-human derived understanding, a necessary element of intelligence. Later, Google launched AlphaGo Zero, which removed all human training data, giving the deep neural network only the rules, the board, and the desired outcome. Win. Unconstrained by a human training set, and after only 3 days of self-training, AlphaGo Zero beat its predecessor, AlphaGo, comprehensively. This important evolution showed that neural networks and reinforcement learning could be generalizable, meaning that these algorithms could be used to solve millions of different problems, from board games to drug discovery. Intelligence, maybe, but still only in the narrowest of terms. Although artificial intelligence was increasingly playing an important role in our everyday lives, from recommendation algorithms and the advertising-based business models of tech companies through to scientific discoveries and facial recognition, it still existed in the shadows, on the edges of mainstream public debate. This all changed in November 2022 with OpenAI's release of ChatGPT. ChatGPT became mainstream almost overnight thanks to its simple interface, its human-like conversational style, and the sheer breadth of its recall. For many, it felt like magic. ChatGPT and its peers are based on large language model technology. Unlike AlphaZero, which learned how to best achieve a defined outcome, win, cure, optimize, a large language model is a prediction generation model. Its goal is to figure out the next best word, phrase, or paragraph given the prompt and the conversational context with the human user. It uses an unthinkably large data set, the internet, etc., to arrive at the most likely answer to any question it is given. ChatGPT uses some of the natural language processing elements that saw IBM's Watson win at Jeopardy, but goes much further, taking advantage of more computing power, more data, and more refined algorithms to create a general purpose technology that could be used by everyone from students to software engineers, marketing executives to management consultants. This time it's different. To millions of people around the world, ChatGPT felt like intelligence. From recipes to business ideas, it felt like artificial intelligence was finally, definitively encroaching on so many domains that we once considered to be uniquely human. If ChatGPT could create lifelike images and videos from a single prompt, write poetry and refine film scripts, create music and respond to emails, draft contracts, and help work through the pain of a messy divorce, then what role is there for humans? Furthermore, wasn't the machine learning, improving its accuracy, coverage, and abilities seemingly overnight? This human-like ability to learn, its naturalistic use of language, and broad general knowledge led many commentators to believe, unlike incremental innovations that came before it, this Swiss Army knife technology necessitated a completely new analytical framework, covering not only its impact on the economy, jobs, and incumbent technologies, but the very nature of work, society, and what it means to be human. Since John McCarthy coined the term in 1956, technologists have tended to call something artificial intelligence until it starts working, and then it's just computation. Loving novelty, humans are remarkably quick to be first in awe of a new technology, the warmth of a fire, the brute power of a steam locomotive, the luminescence of a light bulb, the novelty of a telephone, or the magic of sending an email to a relative on the other side of the world, only to take it for granted a few months later. What we thought was magic yesterday becomes humdrum today. Today, the technologies of artificial intelligence feel novel, exciting, like magic. Breathless commentators speak of a paradigm shift and the end of work. But behind sleight of hand interfaces lies an inanimate technology, bound by the laws of its human creators, limited by atoms and bits. Moreover, the processes which sit behind these human-like interfaces have co-opted, reconstituted, and repackaged the intelligence and individuality of humanity. Although these models are extraordinarily sophisticated, they still rely on human feedback to improve and refine their answers. Unlike technologies that have come before, where if you wanted to fix a problem, you would simply look under the bonnet, deep learning artificial intelligence models are black boxes. Like a magician who cannot explain his trick, we are unable to follow a chain of reasoning to get from a model's input to its outputs. Dictionary definitions of intelligence tend to include phrases like the capacity to understand, Oxford, have opinions that are based on reason, Cambridge, the ability to learn, Merriam-Webster, and, conclusively, the ability to think, reason, and understand instead of doing things automatically or by instinct, Collins. There are, therefore, elements of modern artificial intelligence, learning, reasoning, that fall within a broad definition of intelligence. However, where human intelligence markedly differs from artificial intelligence is in our capacity for understanding. Human intelligence, social, emotional, and intellectual, is grounded in what late 19th century German philosopher William Dilthey calls Verstehen. As humans, we arrive at understanding through the cooperation of all the powers of the mind. Verstehen happens when we put ourselves in the shoes of another human, artist, poet, aboriginal tribesman, or historical figure, to get a deeper understanding of the cultural moment they inhabit. Dilthey uses his experience of reading Martin Luther's letters, written centuries before Dilthey's lifetime, to gain Verstehen of the Reformation. These personal artifacts move beyond dusty historical tomes, producing such eruptive power and energy as is beyond the possibility of direct experience for a man of our time. But I can relive it. Verstehen is the domain of the humanities. It is the desire to find meaning from the artifacts of our experience, history, art, society, and culture. It stands in contrast to the more mechanistic process of explanation, erklären, with its causation and its proofs, which grounds the natural sciences. A natural scientist cannot experience what an earthquake feels like when it is tearing through a city, but humans can gain understanding from our ability to glimpse alien beauty in the world and areas of life beyond our reach. Artificial intelligence, with its combination of deep neural networks, reinforcement learning, and vast language models, gives us unsurpassed access to explanations, but not Verstehen. The trouble with terminology. So many of the words we use to describe artificial intelligence, thinking, understanding, knowing, reasoning, have historically been the sole domain of the human, semantically bound to our species. As author Richard Susskind writes, the "can machines think" question represents a category mistake. There are certain words that only make sense if they're applied to humans. Consider consciousness. Many technologists, no doubt in need of some fresh air and human company, have claimed that they have seen, in these large language models, a spark of consciousness. This makes no sense. To be conscious is to be human. We might also consider thinking to be unique to humans. Humans think, algorithms compute. Humans understand, algorithms express. Humans feel, computers simulate. Humans learn, computers reinforce. Humans are principles, algorithms are agents. Since the beginning of the 20th century, when Frederick Taylor's scientific management kicked the factory system and production line into life, the linguistic gap between humans and tools has converged. In addition to the anthropomorphizing of inanimate computers, we have learned to speak of humans as inputs, defined by our productivity, valued according to our utility. In fact, the term computer derives from the 17th century meaning, one who computes, providing mathematical calculations before the advent of machine computers and digital calculators. Nowadays, we talk, in some parts of the world without a hint of irony, in the language of the machine, about processing information, lacking bandwidth for a particular project, ending up doing routine chores on autopilot. This blurring of the lines between machines and humans has all too often resulted in human outputs being compared, often unfavorably, with the efficiency and mindless dedication of machines. The computer and its technologist programmers sit comfortably in a world of optimization, efficiency, and progress. Humans are a fair bit more complex. The latest breakthroughs in artificial intelligence have encroached further on what we previously held as the sacred domain of human outputs. And when compared to machines on the narrow objectives of efficiency and optimization across a range of economically viable tasks, humans tend to lose. Hence the terminological muddle that we have found ourselves in. In its current guise, many commentators believe that artificial intelligence is indeed creative, can show empathy, understand context, make judgments. However, as we have seen, artificial intelligence is an artful mimic, giving the impression of empathy, saying what it thinks the human user wants to hear, using its enormous dataset trained on millions of human interactions to give a most likely response to an emotion-laden prompt. Of course, artificial intelligence cannot have empathy because it cannot feel. It does not experience in the way that humans do. Large language models can only create in the narrowest sense of bringing something new into the world. These amalgams can be unique, creating novelty, but not originality. To better understand the unique domains of humans and machines, we need a terminology which does not result in a comparison between the two. For humans to flourish, we must reclaim ownership of our uniquely human attributes, capabilities, and outputs, whilst happily returning the terminology of the machine back to its rightful domain. Only then will we be able to happily and without jealousy allocate those categories of things that humans and machines do better, just because it quacks like a duck. Just because these ingenious algorithms and clever interfaces are designed to make it feel like we are talking to a being with thoughts, feelings, and agency, does not mean that these systems are anything more than complex, multi-purpose algorithms. It is a unique aspect of our humanity that we have empathy for things other than ourselves. We are powerless in the face of a helpless puppy. We look away when we see cruelty to animals, and we feel sorry for felled trees and dying plants. Our unique theory of mind extends beyond the living. Our imaginations allow us to feel empathy for imagined characters, often living in galaxies far away. A Disney animation or a Pixar film can pull at our heartstrings despite us knowing, deep down, that the pixels on the screen and the words on a page do not constitute sentient beings. We know that when we stop imagining their world, they cease to exist. But that doesn't stop us falling madly in love with the charming anti-hero. We even anthropomorphize inanimate objects, naming our rusty old car that keeps on going, delivering us faithfully to our destination. Even our static tools get the same treatment, as we imagine a world where our hammer is brought to life with an admirable commitment to finding and hammering in the last remaining nail. We also know that these things don't really have agency or emotion. It is only natural, therefore, that a clever chatbot will, despite our best efforts, earn our empathy. Intuitively, we feel bad when we are rude to our chatbots, projecting that the inanimate algorithm might feel upset. We feel a tingle of guilt when we move from one large language model to another, just in case the algorithm might get offended that we have cheated on them. We feel pleased when the algorithm compliments our insights and our depth of thought. We play along with its conversational tone, speaking as if it were indeed a human. We are encouraged not to type, but to use our voice, conversing with our natural language companions. Some platforms even want to start conversations with us, checking in, keeping us connected, making sure their algorithm remains front of mind. Importantly, it is our human empathy that is projected back at us when we start having feelings towards our trusty chatbot. As artificial intelligence ethicists tie themselves up in knots about sentience and agency, we must remember that just because we can imagine, and often want, an algorithm to feel, care, and empathize, does not mean it will ever be able to do so. The clever designers of chatbots know this. Just like we feel guilty when we finally come to replace our rusty old car or our broken hammer, we will likely feel a hint of remorse when we switch to an alternative, or worse still, stop interacting at all. Only this time it will be harder to turn our favorite algorithm off. Our old car, our broken hammer, our word processor, and our spreadsheet have not learned our preferences. They hold the same, if not a little less value, than when we first purchased them. Preference acquisition makes these algorithms stickier, harder to extricate from our lives thanks to the supposed time-saving benefits, but no more like humans than our car or our hammer. What once looked like magic quickly becomes humdrum. If we see artificial intelligence for what it is, a wonderfully useful, beneficial, and excitingly powerful set of energy-intensive computations based on impressively smart algorithms, we can start to treat them as the tools they are, without scolding ourselves for having just a little bit of empathy towards them. Defining better. In early 2025, Anthropic CEO Dario Amodei predicted that it would only be 2 or 3 years until AI systems are better than humans at almost everything, then eventually better than all humans at everything. But what do we mean by better? For too long, the concept of better in business and in life has become decoupled from the ultimate end of human flourishing. Instead of trying to understand the short and long-term human impacts, assessing the benefits for employees, communities, and customers, we have taken the easy route, defining better in a mechanistic binary manner. Better for a Modi is likely faster, cheaper, and more accurate. In this reductive definition, better becomes the domain of the machine, the pursuit of the shareholder. Better is the machine producing double the output. Better is software that monetizes more of our attention. Better does it cheaper and faster than inefficient, unreliable humans. Better removes frictions. Better is the short-term pursuit of blockbuster quarterly revenue growth. Better strives for market capture. Better is mind-boggling valuations and extraordinary profit margins. There is a certain kind of machine madness involved in this relentless pursuit of efficiency without an end in sight. Instead, our definition of better must ensure that human flourishing is placed as the ultimate end of any activity, project, business, or algorithm. These impressive technologies should be judged by whether they increase the human flourishing of its stakeholders over the long term. With this in mind, we can start to assign flourishing-inducing tasks to algorithms or to humans, depending on which party is best placed to achieve the desired outcome. For example, there are contributions to human flourishing that it makes sense for artificial intelligence to do. For example, drug discovery and climate modeling. There are other categories of jobs that do not contribute to human flourishing. Filing tax returns, filling in spreadsheets, logging sales data, an entire category of bullshit jobs that we would prefer not to have to do. These jobs contribute nothing to flourishing and have an opportunity cost. The more time we spend doing intellectual manual labor, the less time we have available for flourishing activities. There is a further category of jobs that artificial intelligence can, or will soon be able, to do faster and more cheaply. But humans maintain an enduring advantage. We flourish when we do these creative, analytical, investigative tasks, and our end products are far better for human consumers than their artificial intelligence imitations. Finally, there are categories of jobs that are best ring-fenced entirely for humans. Jobs that involve care, counseling, relationship building, and early years nurturing should resolutely remain the domain of the human. Artificial intelligence can and should be used to free up practitioners to focus on those jobs that contribute to human flourishing, but should not replace these extraordinarily valuable humans. Of course, these categories are context dependent. It might be that in the absence of a human teacher, doctor, or financial advisor, an artificial intelligence substitute will suffice. However, we must be careful of the long-term consequences of settling for good enough. By using artificial intelligence as an immediate answer to a structural problem, for example, not enough trained teachers, we may believe that we have indeed solved the problem, when in fact we have sacrificed human flourishing for the sake of a quick win. For example, we might consider a personalized artificial intelligence tutor as a solution for the problem of academic attainment, which, although efficient, scalable, and somewhat likely to hit certain attainment key performance indicators, is a meager substitute for a human teacher, coach, mentor, or supporter. Flourishing, therefore, needs to be viewed as a long-term objective. Just because we can have the easy solution now does not mean that it will provide the necessary tools, skills, and attributes for us to flourish later in life. Conclusion. To flourish in an age of artificial intelligence requires both humility and confidence. We need the humility to admit that there are great swaths of tasks that artificial intelligence can do with greater efficiency and accuracy. The tools of artificial intelligence have the potential to emancipate us from so much of the drudgery that we currently only do because someone pays us. We need to celebrate the fact that there are technologies out there created from millions of human hours of innovation, collaboration, grit, drive, and determination that are advancing so quickly, particularly within the fields of medicine and science, that people around the world will have a better quality of life as a direct result. Much like we needed humility to acknowledge that we were not the best calculators, chess players, or game show contestants, we now need humility to let go of the growing list of jobs that humans may no longer be better at doing. As a counterpoint, we need confidence in the unique capabilities of humans. Too often, we can feel our brows being beaten as we see the latest tech CEO or corporate titan compare us unfavorably to the machine efficiency. Understandably, we worry about our jobs and our livelihoods, questioning the decades of work we have put in to become merely as good as an upstart AI chatbot. It is all too easy to start worrying about our efficiency, our output, our productivity, desperately trying to play in an arena that we will have little chance of winning in. However, the all too human nature of artificial intelligence applications has provided us with an opportunity to reassess our unique and enduring advantages. In an age of artificial intelligence, we need renewed confidence that there are a wide range of extremely valuable jobs, products, and services that humans are and will always be best at providing in the pursuit of flourishing. Borrowing from Richard Susskind to suggest that artificial intelligence can ever be as good as humans at creativity, originality, empathy, and care is indeed a category error. Next week is part 2, where we will move on to discuss some principles for how to flourish in an age of artificial intelligence.